Yeah, she fine with it, yeah. Don't let them say different, yeah.
What's going on, everybody? It's your girl, Angie Legg, aka 2Gs, and you're listening to the Be Influential podcast, where we dare you to be different. Welcome, everybody. This is the podcast rehearsal show. So it's going to be a short one, but it's going to be a powerful one. Today, I have an incredible guest, Mr. Aaron Graham, here with me. He is a retired DEA agent. And let me tell you, the stories that he has to tell us are going to shock you. In a world where COVID is the hot topic, is the elephant in the room, you know, we have people taking vaccines, not taking vaccines, worried about what they're putting in their body, and then worried about the people around them. These are all legit situations, you guys, and we're going to just take a different look at the scenario and see maybe why we should be looking into the situation a little bit further. So without further ado, I have my very good friend, Aaron Graham, retired DEA agent. Aaron, what is good, honey? How are you today?
It's all good. It's great to be here with you, Angie. I love your energy. It's contagious.
I love it. And me and Aaron met here at the Downtime TV studio in Bridgeport at the Knowlton building. Me and Aaron met through these incredible guys. He got a chance to tell his incredible story, which took close to 2.5 hours, but absolutely worth it. So go check that out on YouTube. But we met and we had lunch, and me and Aaron just connected. This is a guy who gets it. He's been around, he's seen things, and he knows things that nobody else does. So I really want us to pay attention to his stories and really focus in on what he's trying to tell you, you guys. Keep your minds open, because this is where you grow. This is how you be influential. You step outside of the box. You say, I'm not afraid to tell my story. I'm here to help people. This is why we're all here on this earth, is to educate each other and to help us grow. So, Aaron, tell me a little bit about how you even got into becoming a DEA agent. That can't be easy.
No, it really is the question. And I grew up a Spanish speaker. I majored in finance. Didn't really know what I wanted to do when I grew up, and it turned out I was made to be a money launderer. And so I was recruited to go to DEA. It was a perfect role. Prior to that, I worked as a policeman in downtown San Diego, and what I saw was it seemed like substance abuse was the root cause of so many other crimes. And so at the end of the day, we had to deal with drug trafficking, substance abuse, and to stem many of those other crimes that we were dealing with.
That's crazy. And so what kind of people, because when you think of these crimes, you think just bad people, but it's not just bad people, right? I mean, they're like good people helping the bad people. And like, what's the controversy behind it all?
Well, that really is true, Angie. You have drug traffickers who were doing other things, and they're very smart. And if they dedicated that same energy and time to any other enterprise, they'd also be successful. But the money is so great. It becomes this poison that they can't get away from. And then they start dragging their friends in. They need to buy property. They need to move their money. They need to make phone calls. They need to rent technology. And they can't do it in their name. And the next thing you know, you've done something for a legitimate drug trafficker, narco-terrorist, and now you're in, and you're kind of a hostage.
These are neighbors. These are people we see at the gym, right? People at the coffee shop.
Yep, exactly. And it's funny you mentioned the gym. So today, the problem with anabolic steroids, there's so much more controlled now in the United States for good reason. So what do people do? They go online. And what do you get online? Anything. You get counterfeit steroids. And so, we have women buying Winstrol, for example, which is a mild anabolic steroid, but they get Dianabol, a strongly androgenic steroid. So now all of a sudden, even if you have a prescription for the Winstrol, you're going to have some pretty serious hormonal problems as a female taking these medicines, because you don't know what you're getting. It's just so dangerous.
Now, are these people buying from legit online places and pharmacies, or are they not buying from legit places and getting this counterfeit medication and drugs?
No, clearly they're going to online pharmacies that are not legitimate. And I think so I'll just jump right into to help protect our neighbors and our friends and our loved ones. We always hear it takes a village to protect each other. And with about 95% of online pharmacies that are fraudulent and violating traditional pharmacy laws and requirements. How do you know? But that's such a high percentage that the likelihood of going to an online pharmacy you're not familiar with and getting a legitimate medicine is very low. So I would just tell the listeners, if you think you want to buy medicine online, go to safe.pharmacy, safe.pharmacy. And right there, you'll get to the National Association Boards of Pharmacy website, and you can type in the domain for the internet pharmacy you want to go to, and they will tell you that's a rogue pharmacy, that's dangerous, don't go there, or that pharmacy is accredited and you can purchase your medicines there. And that's a piece of information that seems so obvious and common sense, but nobody knows about it. So that's why I tell everybody, tell your friends, tell your family, tell your loved ones, tell Angie, and she'll get out on 14 different platforms, safe.pharmacy. And now I know the online pharmacy I'm shopping at is legitimate.
That is legitimate because, women tend to we start taking medications from a very young age. I mean, if we're talking about birth control, and now because everything is online, it's just an easy go-to. And whatever pharmacy pops up at the top of Google, and maybe has some good fake reviews even, we're going to click and we're going to order and assume that it's safe. But I love that website. Say it one more time for the listeners.
Yeah, the website is safe, SAFE.pharmacy.
Okay, I love it. I mean, and that goes for guys too. And, are we talking about really tough drugs to get to? Or are we even talking about things like Tylenol?
No, the problem is they're selling everything. And the other problem is the phishing emails that we get every day. And it's not hard to create a website that looks real. Right. And they'll create websites for legitimate pharmacies that every day, but they change one letter that you don't see. It's a typo. You don't see it. Next thing you know, you're logging into a pharmacy that's in Ukraine, Russia, China, and you don't know that. And so it's so dangerous. And again, we used to look at counterfeit steroids as erectile dysfunction, hair growth. Today it's cardiology, HIV, COVID. So these are legitimate therapeutic brands that are and medications that are really high risk. And to your point about women purchase a lot of medicines, but one of the areas we see a lot of risk in is the Black and brown communities where they're not getting the word, or they don't have great insurance, or they don't have a great prescription plan. So naturally, we all look for a good price when we buy medicines, but price can't always be the driving factor, because if you get something that doesn't have medicine in it or has something else in it, it could be a real problem. And today, of course, we see the pain medicines with fentanyl, the counterfeit medicines that will kill you with 11 micrograms of fentanyl. It's just micrograms, not even grams. It's so dangerous. So it's a scary place out there. So I just beg the listeners, and really the reason I would come on with Angie today in her preliminary big broadcast for Be Influential is to beg people to share with their loved ones. Don't just go to a random internet pharmacy and buy medicines.
I mean, and I think that's the best advice that you could offer to today's millennials, to us. Everything is online, Amazon. And let's slightly pivot to how you feel about the COVID vaccine and what's happening behind the scenes. Is there anything illegal happening with the vaccines? How do we know that we're getting something legit?
Yeah, so from a personal perspective, I'm a vaccine guy. I like to get the vaccines. That's just personal. We've stemmed a lot of really serious health conditions with those. But that's personal, so I'm not promoting that. But I will tell you, from early on, maybe June, July, we started seeing our first counterfeit COVID vaccines out there. So if you're
June, July,
yeah, before they were approved,
yeah,
right?
Exactly.
They got emergency authorization, I think November, December. So we started seeing counterfeit COVID vaccines and therapies as early as June being sold on social media. So the point is, right? Once again, if you're having a hard time getting your vaccine, you really want your vaccine, and you're fighting with your state or your regulatory agencies to get it, and all of a sudden you say, hey, wait a minute, honey, they're doing vaccines today down at the flea market or the swap meet or the bodega. Gosh, this is so great, right? Ask yourself, really? Wow. Right? If it looks too good to be true, you got to keep asking yourself. If it's a discount or you're not the right age group or the right demographic, you're not. So if all of a sudden we just happen to have 100 extra doses we're giving out to our friends and family in East LA, they're not. So you gotta stay smart. You can be concerned and anxious and even desperate, but don't fall victim, because these people, we can talk about Pablo Escobar and drug traffickers, but these people are preying on patients.
Yeah.
And typically the most vulnerable patients, the ones who don't have insurance, who can't afford the medicines. So it's a crime that you just can't even measure.
Okay, so we've heard a little bit about what you do and how you do it and what you believe in. But let me ask you, Aaron, what makes you influential? What are you doing these days that's helping people? How are you getting the word out?
I think it's a great question. And just yesterday, I was doing a training session with U.S. Customs and Border Protection and FDA officials in Guam and the Mariana Islands.
Ooh.
And we're continually to teach them what to look for, because we live this every day. They have lots of other responsibilities. So when there's a unique area that we can help them understand, we do that. 2 weeks ago, we did a training session with the El Salvador Attorney General's office, along with Homeland Security. And we ended up having the attorney generals from Guatemala, El Salvador, a number of countries in Latin America. And it was an hour-and-a-half training session in Spanish with judges and prosecutors and law enforcement, again, talking about the dangers of counterfeit medicines.
And how do these conversations even start? Who reaches out to who in this situation? Because you just name dropped major people in society.
Yeah, so I work with a group called Investigative Consultants. They're on most of the social media platforms, and Chris Buckner is the owner, and he has relationships with law enforcement agencies all over the world. And if he knows there's a big trend happening like these counterfeit medicines, then he will reach out to Homeland Security, FDA, CBP, the others, and say, look, here's a trend we're seeing. It's really dangerous, and it's in your wheelhouse. We'd like to share some of the newest issues with you so that you can be prepared to fight them. And the next thing you know, you have the attaché from Homeland Security in El Salvador saying to Chris, let's put together a training session. And, a lot of people are familiar with MS-13, the organized crime group out of El Salvador. It was actually born in Los Angeles. We always think El Salvador, but it was born in LA. I met with an informant from MS-13 a few months ago who said that 40% of their revenue comes from counterfeit medicines. People are unaware there's a counterfeit medicine problem. They're aware of MS-13. They don't know that the counterfeit medicine problem is, in fact, feeding MS-13 so they can continue their terrorist ways. We even had a woman in an undercover meeting in El Salvador say to somebody, the young man asked her, do these medicines work? Like, I just want to know what I'm selling because I know you're making it, but do they work? And she says, mijo, we're making money. We're not making medicine.
Listen,
now that those
everyone
medicines
has an agenda,
right? But we're talking about public health here. We're talking about vulnerable communities.
The agenda,
right?
Listen,
it's frightening.
It's out there.
So
what other trends? Can you share some of the other trends that are out there that are behind the scenes that we don't know about? Like, what else is going on?
I think the biggest thing is when you hear about a drug shortage, because even right now, I just read that California didn't have enough vaccines. Well, when you hear that, if all of a sudden the vaccine becomes available in your neighborhood just for you, really?
Here we go.
Right? So just pay attention. And anytime it looks too good to be true, it probably is. So the bad guys look for these shortages, these opportunities to exploit. And so if you're having a hard time getting access to a certain medicine because there's a shortage or because you're not on the list yet, and all of a sudden, just for you, Angie, we're going to make it available, you got to stop. You can't say, oh, gosh, it finally happened. You got to still be smart. And it's easy enough to contact your local officials, contact the governor's office, contact FDA and say, here's something I saw. Don't be afraid to do that, because you might figure out that was a scheme, but somebody else might not. So if you can contact your local police department, your local governor's office, they can get the word out and save somebody else. It really is amazing how easily you can save a life by sharing information, really, and being influential. And that's what you're doing. I know you'll do it with a lot of other people, much more rock star-like than me.
No,
but the point
even.
is, you can influence people literally to save lives. It just can't be a more important message today than to make sure people are getting their medicine from safe places.
I absolutely love it. Aaron, you are an inspiration to all of us. You're out here really actually saving the world. As far as I'm concerned, you are international. And I think that's the most powerful and the most influential thing that you can do. I'm just here in this little tiny Connecticut community. You've been making a difference for many, many years, and I respect that so much. And, at the end of the day, guys, listen to Aaron. It is all about helping each other, getting the word out, being safe, being smart, being conscious about what we put in our bodies. If it looks funny, if it smells funny, you know what I mean? It probably is. And my mother taught me that from little girl. Like, we have been told this. We're being told this now. Be conscious, be smart about what you're doing. And Aaron, it has been an honor and a pleasure to have you on my show as my official guest. Absolutely might be a preliminary rehearsal, but you are absolutely at the top of my list as far as incredible humans to know. And I'm so excited that my audience gets to meet you, because it's been an honor to have you.
Thank you so much, Angie. You know, I can tell people one at a time what this message is, but with your platform to get out to so many people, I mean, you're probably saving lives today by influencing behavior in the community across the country. So thank you for everything you're doing.
I love it. I love it. Nothing but respect here at the Be Influential podcast. You already know it's your girl, Angie Legg, aka 2Gs, and we are out. Love you guys.
Let's not waste no time. I ain't come for no fights. I'm not here for one night. So